Chasseur, sha-sur, fr. Chasseur, is the designation given to certain regiments of French and Belgian light infantry or light cavalry to denote troops trained for rapid action. History. This branch of the French army originated during the War of the Austrian Succession when, in 1743, Jean-Chrétien Fischer was authorized by the Marshal de Belle-Isle to raise a 600-strong mixed force of infantry and cavalry. It was called Fischer's Chasseurs. During the remainder of the 18th century, various types of light troops were employed within the French army, either as independent units or as companies within existing regiments. Chasseurs applied. The Chasseurs applied were the light infantrymen of the French Imperial Army. They were armed the same as their counterparts in the regular line infantry battalions, but were trained to excel in marksmanship and in executing maneuvers at high speed. From 1840, they wore a long-skirted frock coat. After 1850, however, the Chasseurs adopted a uniform consisting of a short frock coat with slits in the sides on the bottom edge to allow for better freedom of movement than the previous design. They also wore baggy trousers tucked into jambières. The other light infantry unit type, the voltiges, specialized as skirmishers and for advanced screening of the main force. The Chasseurs could also be called upon to form advance guards and scouting parties alongside the voltiges. Following the Napoleonic Wars, the Chasseurs applied continued to exist as a separate corps within the infantry. Initially a specially trained elite, their tactical role eventually came to match that of the ordinary lieutenants. By the late 19th century, the differences between the two branches were confined to uniform and insignia, although the Chasseurs retained a strong esprit de corps. Chasseurs à cheval. The Chasseurs à cheval, a type of French light cavalry, date from 1743 when an independent unit was raised during the War of the Austrian Succession to counter transponders and Croats employed as irregulars by the Austrian army. Originally a mixed corps of light infantry and horsemen, this force proved sufficiently effective to warrant the creation of a single corps, Dragoons Chasseurs de Conflans. In 1776, this and other volunteer legions had their mounted elements converted into 24 squadrons of chasseurs à cheval, each of which was attached to one of the existing dragoon regiments of the Royal Cavalry. In 1779, these squadrons were amalgamated into 6 regiments, each of which was given a regional title. In 1788, 6 dragoon regiments were converted to chasseurs à cheval, and during the period of the Revolutionary Wars the number was again increased to 25. During their earlier history, these regiments lacked the higher profile of the identically armed hussars, distinguished by dark green uniforms and a bugle horn badge. They were frequently used as advanced scouting units, providing valuable information on enemy movements. Both Napoleon's Imperial Guard and the Royal Guard of the Restoration each included a regiment of chasseurs à cheval. In addition, Napoleon added a further 5 line regiments to those inherited from the Revolutionary period. At the beginning of the Franco-Prussian War of 1870, the French army had 12 regiments of chasseurs à cheval, grouped with 8 hussar regiments to form the light branch of the cavalry and tasked with primarily reconnaissance duties. This intended role continued through World War I, and the chasseurs à cheval remained entirely horse-mounted until the 1RCH was motorized in June 1940. Disbanded after the Battle of France, these units were reconstituted in 1944–45 as light armor. During the French occupation of Algeria, regiments of chasseurs d'Afrique were raised. These were light cavalry recruited originally from French volunteers and subsequently from the French settlers in North Africa doing their military service. As such, they were the mounted equivalent of the zouaves. flankers, chasseurs. In preparation for the invasion of Russia, Napoleon ordered a further creation of units for the Guard that included Régiment de Flankers Chasseurs de la Garde Impériale that were with the other Regiment of Flankers Grenadiers, mainly composed with sons and nephews of forest service civil servants, or with young people that wanted to grant a position within the forest service after their military service. These light infantry soldiers were supposed to flank the marching army to prevent any sudden attack. Chasseurs forestiers. The chasseurs forestiers were militarized units of the Waters and Forests Administration. They were organized in 48 companies and many sections. In the French colonial empire, they were mounted infantry organized in 3 light horse squadrons. The chasseurs forestiers existed between 1875 and 1924. The chasseurs forestiers were elite light infantry troops and could form advance guards and scouting parties due to their knowledge of natural fields, and their ability to make or read maps, as well as to provide wood for the rest of the army. Modern French Army. The modern French army still maintains chasseurs applied, chasseurs alpins and regiments of chasseurs à cheval. In addition, one regiment of chasseurs d'Afrique has been re-raised to commemorate this branch of the French cavalry. Since May 1943 there has been a Régiment de chasseurs parachutistes. All of these units have different traditions. Bataillons de chasseurs are light infantry units created after 1838. Some of these battalions were converted to specialized mountain units as bataillons de chasseurs alpins in 1888, as an answer to the Italian Alpine regiments stationed along the Alpine frontier. Régiments de chasseurs are units of the arme blindée cavalerie, armored units. The basic organic unit is called regiment and not bataillon to avoid confusing cavalry and infantry chasseurs. The airborne infantry units called Régiments de chasseurs parachutistes were created in 1943 with airborne troops from the French Air Force, who were transferred into the army. Chasseurs alpins are the elite mountain infantry of the modern French army. They are trained to operate in mountainous terrain and to undertake urban warfare. Although the traditions of these different branches of the French army are very different, there is still a tendency to confuse one with the other. For example, when World War I veteran L'Écute Owenville died, the AFP press agency stated that he was a member of the 5th Regiment de Chasseurs Alpins. It was in fact the 5th Bataillon, Belgian Army. From its creation as a permanent force in 1832, the Belgian army included regiments of both chasseurs applied and chasseurs à cheval, performing the same roles as their French counterparts. The last Belgian regiments of chasseurs à cheval, the 1st Regiment of Chasseurs à Cheval, were amalgamated with the 1st Guides Regiment in 2004, while the final unit, the 2nd, 4th Chasseurs à Cheval, was formed into the ISTAR Battalion in 2011, losing the distinctive designation, U.S. Army. The U.S. Federal Army adopted chasseurs during the Civil War as a scouting and skirmishing force for use against the Confederate Army. Their uniform was patterned after the French style, with the short, vented coat, though they were issued gray kepis. A notable unit of Civil War chasseurs were the 65th New York Volunteer Infantry, or the 1st U.S. Chasseurs. The chasseurs were involved in the Peninsular Campaign, as well as the Appomattox Campaign, and lost a total of 146 men. They were distinct, choosing to wear M1858 uniform hats rather than the kepis. In 1862, following the capture of Confederate-held New Orleans by Federal soldiers, an all-black regiment named the Chasseurs d'Afrique was raised. Argentinian Army. In the Argentinian Army, the term cazador is used to designate certain special units trained to operate in specific geographical areas, such as mountain or jungle. Currently, there are 2 independent companies of Cazadores de Montana and 3 of Cazadores de Monte.